It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Shorman and this is the Forum on Eagle Communications. Good to have you listening along with us and watching here on Eagle Cable Channel 14. Our guest today is Mike Morley, and he's the Corporate Communications Manager at Midwest Energy, and we're here to talk about solar power. You know, we all get our power from Midwest Energy, or at least most of us watching right here get our power from Midwest Energy. But solar power is kind of new. Tell me about the solar power project and when did that get started?
Sure. Midwest Energy's community solar project is unique in Kansas for two reasons. First is that it's the only utility scale solar project where people can have direct ownership. Anybody who takes Midwest Energy electric service is eligible to become a partner and own panels in this array. So it's unique in that regard. Second is its size. The fact that it's a 1.2 DC megawatt array makes it basically twice as big as the next largest array in the state of Kansas.
Well, first off, one DCU megabit array, what exactly does that mean in the scope of power? How does that translate to how many light bulbs, how many homes?
You bet. Electricity can be measured in AC alternating current or DC direct current. The solar world talks in DC direct current. When you get electricity at your house, your receptacle at your home is a 115 AC. So the array is 1.2 megawatts DC, 1 megawatt AC, and 1 megawatt will power roughly 150 homes at any given time.
So this is in addition to what the typical power source is. It will be in addition to power for communities in northwest Kansas.
That's correct. The way the construct works is all of the electricity that the array generates is purchased back by Midwest Energy. And then we apply a bill credit to anyone who owns panels in the array. So we have various sources of generation. We have a lot of our electricity comes from the eastern part of the state, Westar Energy, which is coal generation. We have a large portion that comes from wind energy. We buy off of the Smoky Hills wind farm, which is the one north of I-70. And then as you're going out to Salina. And then of course, the solar array is the newest addition to the mix.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about how that works and what that means for maybe a customer of Midwest Energy that wants to be involved with this. But first off, let's just backtrack just a little bit. You're busy because you're traveling all over the northwestern part of the state, Midwest Energy territory. We're fortunate just to have you here in town, from what I understand. Is that right?
It's good to be here. We do travel a lot, and we serve 41 counties between electric and natural gas service. So it's a very, very large geographic area that we cover. Our density, how many members we have per, say, mile of electric line or mile of gas line, is actually quite low. We're just over 4 members per mile.
As an average.
Correct. And then you go to cities like Salina or Wichita, and you might have 30 or 40 customers per mile. So we're very, very spread out over a large area.
Those of us that are in operate companies like Midwest Energy realize people are spread out here. So as a corporate communications manager, what do you have to do to sell this product, and what do you have to do to talk about electricity in northwest Kansas?
It's a challenge because we are so lightly populated in certain parts of our area. It makes it a little bit more challenging in the traditional media sense, in that we have smaller market media. A lot of the papers and things like that publish on a weekly basis versus daily. So it's a little bit different construct in how you have to time your message and approach and how you deliver it. But yeah, it's a fair amount of driving. It's a lot of face-to-face interaction, and of course programs like this. It's one of the more effective ways we have to get the word out.
Midwest Energy got into the solar business a few years ago with this whole project. What was the start of that?
There were a couple reasons for the beginning of this project. First and foremost is you're seeing a lot of utility companies throughout the country lose large shares of their market due to what's called distributed generation, and that's either people who are generating their power through a community array like this, or people who are putting rooftop solar on their house. You've seen certain parts of the country, Hawaii and California are two good examples, where there's a lot of strong sunshine, the electricity prices tend to be higher, and folks are basically providing for themselves. So that was one of the reasons. The second is that as the EPA and regulations become more stringent on what types of generation you can have, there's only a few economically viable sources of generation remaining. So we wanted to learn what are the real production values of solar as it pertains to western Kansas. Nobody knew because, again, there wasn't any arrays pre-existing. So we wanted to find out what those values were, and second, how could we package that in a way that our members would still have a relationship with Midwest Energy. We didn't want folks going out and putting up hundreds of these arrays on their rooftops for two reasons. One is it's very expensive when you do that, and second is it tends to dilute that relationship with the cooperative. So being member-owned, we thought community solar was a way we could offer solar at an attractive price but preserve that relationship.
How does solar compare to like wind energy? You know, when you look at the efficiencies of doing that, obviously a lot fewer moving parts. Mm-hmm. You know, you just have the solar. Now that's complicated in another way, but does it compare fairly consistent? We have wind out here, we have sun out here.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. We have wind and sun. And Midwest has been purchasing wind energy for about a decade, so we've got a pretty good read on what the production values are for wind in Kansas. Solar was the unknown. Very generically speaking, wind performs best in the winter months, the fall months, and in the evening, which is exactly off-peak compared, relative to where our highest demand is. Our demand is always highest June, July, August afternoons when everybody comes home from work or from school and fires up the air conditioner.
It's hot and sunny.
It's hot and sunny. So what we were looking to do is find a generation source that complements that peak a little bit better. And solar, particularly tracking solar, seems to do that just fine.
Well, let's talk about that end of things. You mentioned people putting solar panels on their house. Mm-hmm. You know, that's one project to do. There's some real tax advantages for doing that right now. Mm-hmm. But it is a solar panel strapped to the side of your house, which causes other issues and can cause roof damage, etc. How is this different than that?
It's different in two ways. First is you mentioned once it's on your roof, it's on your roof. So if you move, you would have to, of course, move that system with you or leave it with the property, and then you abandon your investment. So that it's a little tricky in that regard. And then there's several other reasons. Once it's on your roof, it's part of your home like anything else, and you're liable for the maintenance. Solar panels, for the most part, are maintenance-free. They don't require a whole lot of maintenance, say that a small wind turbine might, but at the same time, they do have parts to them that can fail and go bad. With community solar, all of the arrays that hundreds of Midwest Energy customers throughout the service area own, they're all located in one place, and that's in Colby. The array is located just north of Colby, 4,000 panels, and under the construct, all the maintenance, all the operations costs are paid for by the array. So when a member buys a panel in the community array, they make a one-time payment, and that's it for 25 years. There's no assessments, there's no, the panels need to be cleaned, maybe a lightning strike comes and wipes out a row of panels. All of that is covered with the one-time cost. Whereas if it's on your roof, and say you do get that rare hailstorm, or you do have a squirrel that gets up on the roof and chews through the wiring, that's on you to fix it. Otherwise, your investment is stranded.
It's interesting because I know many people look at ways to save money. Is this a cost-saving venture for Midwest Energy and their customers, or is it one of the environmentally friendly things for customers? Or both?
It's a little bit of both, actually. For Midwest, we don't necessarily see any cost savings with this project. The real benefit to the company comes from what we can learn about solar production and how does that impact us 5 or 10 years down the road when we have a need, maybe not to build a new power plant, because that's very, very expensive, but we might need 5 megawatts or 10 megawatts here and there. How could solar supplement that? And in that regard, we think solar could be quite cost effective. For the customer, when you purchase the panels, we buy back that electricity at 10.5 cents a kilowatt hour, which is roughly what you and I pay for our residential electric service. When you look at it over a long term, you're looking at a rate of return that begins at about 6.4%. So in year one, based on what we think is going to be the production of this array, you're probably looking at about 6.4% on your rate of return, which isn't bad. As the residential rates go up over the years, say they go up 10% in 5 years, the value of your credits go up correspondingly. So you have inflation protection, and you start off with what's a pretty decent rate of return to begin with.
I know you have some of the solar cells or panels are available for people still to invest in at this point. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk with Mike about how you can invest in those if you would like to do that, what your interest is, and how you find out more. Our guest is Mike Morley, who's the Corporate Communications Director for Midwest Energy. Back with more after this.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our forum here on Eagle Community Television with our guest Mike Morley of Midwest Energy. If you have any questions, comments, ideas, suggestions, other things you'd like us to talk about, send me a note, gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. I'd like to hear from you. Mike Morley is the Corporate Communications Manager at Midwest Energy. And Mike, going into this, we came back and said we're going to talk about how you can invest. But before we go there, learned over the break, Midwest Energy is really a leader in trying this product, trying the solar energy, trying to see how it works. What are other cooperatives doing other than just looking at what you're doing?
There's several different solar models that a utility could pursue. One is they could simply build their own array and fold that into the mix and just kind of make it transparent to the end user. There's others that are offering a completely renewable portfolio. So a person might, instead of paying that 10.5 cents a kilowatt hour, maybe now they're paying 15 cents with the guarantee that their electricity is sourced from renewables. And of course, the third option is community solar, which enables direct ownership of the array by the utility member. And that's what Midwest has pursued, and that's frankly a lot of the questions that we've gotten as a company, and both members of our board of directors have received from other co-ops and other co-op board members asking about how could we make this model work for our co-op.
So somebody drives out for Colby and they want to see what they're invested in. What do they see?
When you drive out to Colby, you would get on Veterans Memorial Drive, which is the just north of the railroad tracks in Colby. And what you're going to see is 8 acres of panels. And these panels are all mounted on a tracker system, which means in the morning, the panels will tilt to the east, facing the sun. And every 15 minutes or so, they'll kick over a couple of degrees until they face fully west in the afternoon. And what that does is that gives you about a 30% gain in efficiency over panels that might be mounted on a roof or on poles, say on your property. When you look at the traditional stationary solar mounting arrangement, what you see with a traditional solar mounting system is a bell curve, and it peaks around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it comes back down.
What you'd expect when the sun is straight up over the top.
Exactly. With a tracking system, you see more of an M-shaped curve. It ramps up very, very quickly in the morning. Actually, during noon, it tends to drop just a bit as those panels align, and then in the afternoon, it picks right back up, and that's where you really see the value of a tracking system. That electricity is, of course, most expensive to the utility in those afternoon hours when demand is highest. And of course, that's when the tracking system produces its best.
So you're out there watching this. If you spend some time, you'd see those things then move as the sun goes across, if you want to spend that much time there.
That's correct. We've actually put up a time-lapse camera early on, and we've got a couple shots of where you can see that.
Can you go online and find out about this?
Absolutely. There's the website mwecommunitysolar.com, and that's just a very generic overview of the site, but of the array. But it also talks a bit about how somebody who is interested in purchasing panels can go about that. There's also additional information on our website, mwenergy.com, And again, it's got a few pictures of the array since its completion, and to see 8 acres of anything, it doesn't matter if it's corn, solar panels, whatever, it's pretty impressive to see.
It looks high-tech. It looks space-like, like you landed on a planet and here's all these solar arrays out there. It's really cool looking. Why should somebody say it's cool looking, looks high-tech, it's going to save me a little on my electricity? Why should they invest in this?
It's interesting, the people that have purchased into the array and the reasons for which they've done so. As of now, early April, we've got about 95 different Midwest Energy businesses and individuals that have purchased panels in the array. Some have purchased just one so they can be part of it. Others have purchased hundreds, and those are the ones that are really looking to offset their electric bill long term, or perhaps they're doing it for the green reasons for their business. The interesting thing is, I thought that the average buyer was going to be solely environmentally focused. These would be the folks that are driving the Prius, that have put the LED bulbs in their home and made all the green measures and conservation measures that they could. What we're finding is the average buyer tends to be more pragmatic in the reasons for their purchase. It tends to be a lot of ag producers. It tends to be people that are a little bit older, maybe in their late 50s or even early 60s, that have purchased panels. So that's been a bit of surprise, is who's buying and the reasons that they have.
Very good. And if somebody wants to find out more and say, I'd like to participate and have my very own, now can you find your panel? If you go out there, does it have your name on the bottom of it?
It has a serial number, and you have a sheet that has all of the panels that you own. So if you own 30 panels, you're going to have 30 serial numbers. Coming up on April 23rd, we're going to have the grand opening, the dedication ceremony for this array. And as part of that, anybody who owns panels in the array, they'll have a map. They've got their list of panels. They can walk out there and find their panels in this 8-acre sea of 4,000. You can sign the back of it. You can get your picture taken with it. It's yours. You can do anything you want with it. So you can come out and meet your panel on the 23rd.
Brandon, who runs our camera, if he and I get together, we can buy our own panel and get out there, huh?
You sure could.
All right. So somebody can go online. The best way to find out more and get information is to go online or go call you.
Either one. You can go online, mwecommunitysolar.com, or just call us at Midwest, the 800-222-3121, and we'll be happy to talk to you. There's customers we've probably spent 20 or 30 minutes on the phone going through their list of questions. And again, this is, it's a large outlay. You know, the panels are priced at $891 each, and so before somebody commits, we want to make sure that they have all the answers and their questions are answered before they make a purchase.
Well, what happened? You mentioned if you leave, you put one on your house, you leave and move somewhere else. What does that do? Do you still get to stay that investment, or do you pay something different other than an electricity reimbursement?
That's a good question. Under this community construct, the only way you get value back out of your panels is with that bottom line bill credit on your Midwest Energy electric bill. Mm-hmm. So as long as you have a Midwest Energy electric account somewhere, you can transfer those credits to your new home. Mm-hmm. If you leave the area, say you move to Denver, you have a couple of options for your panels. One is you can sell them to anybody you want at any price you want. We really don't care. All we want to know is, where do we assign those credits, right, which meter? The second option would be to give it to somebody. The third option would be to give it to a charity, and that could be any charity in Hays, your church, the VFW, Fort Hays Foundation, whatever's of interest to you. As long as that entity has an electric meter, you can transfer those panels and take the tax deduction for the value of the panels.
Well, it sounds exciting, sounds interesting, especially if you're interested in saving and talking about a green environment, mm-hmm, and doing that, and also finding ways to save and invest in your future here in Northwest Kansas. Mike, thanks for being on our program today.
Thanks for having us, Gary.
Mike Morley, who's a corporate communications manager for Midwest Energy, has been our guest here on the Forum. The Forum is brought to you by Hays Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Hays Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region, with more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery. Hays Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hays Med, helping people be healthy.